right, welcome to the Clubhouse podcast episode 7 now?
Yeah.
Episode 7.
My goodness. I'm getting old.
It is episode 7. It's me, Zach Priest. I'm with my partner, Lukas Anderson, and our guest today, Carsie Walker. Carsie,
What up?
How you feeling, dude?
Tired.
Yeah.
Tired.
It was a long weekend. We had some makeup games.
That was for you guys. I didn't have to deal with all that.
Yeah,
Thank God.
You guys played an extra game, though, too.
Oh,
Yeah. No, you guys didn't.
No, we didn't.
The
That was
Volcanoes
last week.
did.
That was last week
Yeah.
when we had our extra.
It's all been a blur coming to the end of the season here.
Delirious broadcasting.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take a look. So there was 2 series. One, the Volcanoes and Campesinos. That was the 4-game series. There was a makeup game. So game 1 was Friday night. Volcanoes took an early lead over the Camps and then kind of fended off the Camps' comeback towards the end, though. Volcanoes ended up winning 9-6. Game 2 was part of the doubleheader makeups. That was a 7-inning game. Volcanoes, that was I don't know how to sugarcoat it. It was a little bit of a blowout. It was 14-5. There was a grand slam, a lot of stuff going on for the Volcanoes. There was, it started to finally look like the old Volcanoes that we had seen earlier in the season. So yeah, it started to look like the Volcanoes we had seen early in the season. They really, their offense really exploded. So that first game was 14-5. Game 3 was about 30 minutes after that. Again, Volcanoes jumped out to an early lead. But then they failed to get some insurance off of Noah Woodall. Woodall ended up dealing for the Camps. 3 hits, 7-inning complete game. Volcanoes barely won 5-3. And then game 4 was Sunday night. That closed off the weekend. It was a 5:05 start. Again, Volcanoes out to that massive early lead like they always seem to do this weekend. And the Camps actually brought the tying run to the plate in the 9th inning. And Sam Jones at second base.
The Sam Jones.
Getting a spot start at second. They had to readjust because their shortstop was ejected, so suspended for the Sunday game.
Yep.
Sam plays second base, makes a wild catch out there. I can't remember what the final score of that game was. I think it was like 9-7.
Yeah, because it ended up being the tying run was on base when he made that catch.
Yeah, exactly. And it was kind of a little bloop shot into center, and they had Blaze
No man's
Spies.
land.
Yeah, they had Spies out there playing way back at the track,
Right.
and it was going to land in front of them. Both probably would have scored and tied the game. But, so they get the 4-game sweep, which was big for the Volcanoes because that now, I think, puts them tied with you guys. Or are they like a half game ahead of you guys? Yeah. Which takes us into the series with the Mavericks. You guys took on the Senators. That was Senators were hot. They still are. It was game 1 was 11-7. Senators won. Both sides looked good, honestly. I don't think that was a bad game at all. I think everybody looked really good in that game. Just unfortunate. Senators' offense is kind of unstoppable at this point. Game 2, you threw.
Yep.
How was that?
That was the most aggravating game that I've pitched, but also one of my better ones that I've thrown. Like, when I look at stuff and strikeout numbers, I didn't strike anybody out my last 2 innings. So at the time, I had 7 Ks through 4 innings. Yeah. And then, but I threw a lot of stuff in the zone and tried to challenge good hitters, and I got a bunch of singles off it. And then there's people like Keeper that exist.
Yeah, Gary Keeber's
the first pitch of the game double.
Could not imagine having to face that guy as a pitcher.
Hottest hitter on the planet right now.
You have to physically throw him a ball.
Yeah.
I figured that out the third AB. I go, I'm just going to throw him a first pitch ball and see what happens. And then I get him out. I'm like, oh, so you just swing? Okay.
It's very selective. He's got a good feel for the zone.
Him and Green. I don't know what to throw Green.
Yeah.
Green is collectively, I think, seeing 7 pitches off of me and 8 ABs.
Just
something like that.
Jumps right on you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They got a deadly lineup right now. I think so they ended up winning that game 6-3, but you guys had the tying run at the plate again in the top of the 9th.
Yep.
Just couldn't quite plate it, and it was a pretty solid game. I think both game 1 and 2 were really good. They were close. Game 3 was a little interesting Saturday night. Arguably game of the year. It's top
It's up
3.
there for sure.
Back and forth. Dylan Moser hits a solo shot to tie it. Well, you guys tied it off of a balk, or did you take the lead?
We took the lead. We were up.
Yeah, you guys took the lead off of a bases-loaded balk from Chase Jesse, which was crazy.
What was your thoughts on that balk?
Yeah.
What did you see on that?
So I thought it was his feet because I didn't see the hand movement as much, but then once it was like almost right as it was called, I saw his front foot come back and then his back foot came off. So I thought it was on that. I thought he just messed up the way he stepped off because it's like, I can speak from experience. It's just a mental error.
Yeah.
But AT saw his hands because the ball went to come out of his hand, like slipped, and his hands shook.
Yeah.
And so
that's what we saw on the replay, though. We didn't see it like in real time.
AT saw it in real time.
Yeah.
He pointed straight back.
Yeah, that is on the replay. It's funny, too, because you see it happen, and then AT immediately points.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being a catcher on his part. You know, he notices those things. He's really tuned in with
it was really, like, bizarre because I, like, looked away for, like, a split second. And, like I said, I saw his legs. I didn't even see his hands. AT saw it, like, instantly.
Yeah, you guys went up by 1 at that point, took the lead, and then Dylan Moser just...
The Moser game.
Yeah, it's like going down as the Moser game at this point because he hits the solo homer to tie it off the scoreboard. You guys...
Quadrice hit a triple to take the lead back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quad hits the triple, and then ninth inning, Joe Stark walks. Guys at first and second. Moser.
That walk.
Yeah.
That walk.
It was, that
will go down in infamy for sure.
Yeah, that was,
I don't even think it was more like the pitch before. Like, we're not even going to get into that because that's just a whole conversation in itself. It's the pitch after that's so, like, undeniably close in that scenario after like Joe had already swung that I, like, as an umpire, like a bunch of us said, as an umpire, I'm probably ringing you up on, like, anything close 3-2 in that scenario after everything that had just happened.
Yeah.
Like, but...
That makes sense.
It's Randy's world. We're living in it.
Yeah. So Stark ends up walking first and second now, 2 outs. Senators are up to bat. Top 9. Dylan Moser gets the at-bat.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. And honestly, he hits a ball down the right field line. He goes oppo, hits it really hard off of Sammy Mercedes, who had been dealing. Dane Simon almost makes that catch.
I thought he's Superman.
Yeah.
I will 100. I've heard like mixed opinions on like what Dane should have done in that scenario, and the reality is like even if I'm sure you guys watch that replay, is like that ball is on this angle that he has to die.
He has. That's what I thought too. Yeah, you gotta go for it.
Well, it's do or die, right? So like everyone can say like hindsight's 20/20. Well, if you stand, maybe you catch it and you catch the second runner, and then we're at a tie game again, going into extras. But like the reality is like Dane is like an inch farther and makes that catch. He's the hero the whole night.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
because we get out of that harmless.
Because ultimately, I think Willie Barcena comes up after that and still hits the home run.
Yeah,
I think that happens either way. Whether Dane gets
we
in
had
front
2
of that
outs
ball.
though. We were at 2 outs.
Yeah, but he would have come up. He comes up after Dylan Moser, anyways.
Right, but I'm saying it. I was saying if.
Oh, you gunned the guy going.
Well, if he makes the catch.
Oh yeah. I think.
But now the home run, then we still had to.
I think even if he bodies it up and kind of just plays it to the tie, I mean, Willie comes up and hits a tank. I think either way on that next AB.
Yeah, I don't know how far that ball went. I don't want to know how far that ball went.
Majestic.
Yeah. Every time that they hit one, it is like, it's not like a hard like line drive out either too. Like Moser's, I thought was clearing the scoreboard.
Yeah.
That thing got up.
Yeah. And it caught just the little like metal advertisement sign to the left of it, and it was you could hear
loud.
It. Yeah. I thought he hit that thing 110.
But then, I mean, even in the bottom of the ninth, so you guys get Billy Kitcher leads it off, base knock, advances on a wild pitch. Mitch Austin knocks him in with a single. Somebody walked to make it first and second.
Rodney walked.
No, Rodney was bunting.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
I think it was a quad. I think Quadrice Teague walked.
Yes. T walked because then Rod was batting lead off. Yeah.
So then it was first and second, no out still. You guys have already scored a run. It's 10-8, and then Rodney comes up and gets the bunt sign, which I mean you knew it was coming.
I called it on there. I mean we knew it was coming.
Yeah, it's Scott plays.
I was really surprised. I was really surprised by it, to be honest.
Yeah.
For as much small ball, Rod's been hot.
Yeah.
And like the only reason I could see him not doing it is because Wong is a mad scientist and likes to shift this entire league. Everything Rod hits is like up back right side, like in the air. And I looked at the outfield and it was just stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Rodney gets the bunt sign. They bring in Matt Jeffrey on, all-star reliever. Rodney bunts it, unfortunately, right back to Matt on the mound. Matt turns and doubles off Mitchell Austin at second base, and it's the old rally killer.
That'll do it.
Yeah, and then it's 2 outs, runner at first, and I don't even remember what happened after that.
Emerson struck out, I believe.
Yeah,
or
Emerson did.
something happened on that line.
So at that point, we've got 2 outs, runner first. Emerson strikes out, and then game over. And it was 10-8 final score. Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking turn of events there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's it is an unfortunate sweep because then the Volcanoes on the flip side get their sweep. Second, yeah. The Senators end up sweeping you guys, and that's 11 straight, which is just, they're hot at the right time. I mean, you couldn't have scripted it better, really, going into the playoffs we got 1 weekend left, but.
Told you, Wong, bad scientist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I think realistically, even like with his shifts and stuff and how he constructs the lineup, I think there's only been really one time this year where the shift kind of bit him, and it. Yeah, where they had Blaze shift it into the left, and
I was
like,
in the press box with you guys when that happened.
That was like I think the only time that that kind of came back to bite him.
Yeah.
So other than that, Dave Wong, like you're saying, I think definitely he's cooking up something always. You never know. Those the 2-1 mound visits always get me. Just middle of an AB.
We're just motors out of the dugout.
All right, we'll get into the Q&A now. That was a pretty eventful weekend if you guys missed it. We got 1 weekend left coming up this weekend, so check it out. So I guess our first question, like, where'd you grow up? Where'd you play high school ball? What's your young baseball life look like?
Yeah, so I'm from like a super small town in Michigan. It's called Saugatuck. It's like a 900-person town. So I played at my local high school there, which is called Saugatuck. And yeah, the program's like basically anybody you can get. Like, we don't have a JV team. Like, I graduated with 108 kids.
What?
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Like, I knew everybody from like middle school, like, because it's 6 through 12 in one building. So I knew everybody's like name from like 6th grade all the way up to like my graduating class. But I played with a kid, Blake Dunn, that's in the Reds organization right now. We're the only 2 people to do, I believe, play professional sports out of our high school.
Wow.
But yeah, so super small high school. The league itself actually wasn't horrible. Like, across, I think we had a bunch of kids like end up playing. And my senior year, we had 5 out of our starting 9 end up going to play college ball. But for a school that has literally like no history of baseball whatsoever, like, we're more known for football, and even then it's still like cornfield like schools that nobody knows of, like making it to state playoffs. Like, it's like the game that nobody watches on that has like maybe like 400 or 500 people total in like attendance at a state game. Like, it's super small.
Interesting. A little small town.
Yeah, so playing up in a cold weather state, I mean, baseball, it's tough in the early spring when it's going to be cold. What was that like?
It's a lot of high school, like going out in like February. I don't even know. When does high school season even start?
Usually like March.
Yeah,
March.
so like February and March, like going to like shovel off fields.
Ooh.
Yeah, like, because you guys don't really get snow out here.
Oh, we get a lot of rain early on, which I kind of feel it, but not snow.
Yeah, no, like, I'm like going out there with like pickaxes, like trying to break ice to like get it in the drains. Like,
how does that affect the field?
It's honestly really bad in the beginning of the year because all of a sudden spring hits and then it rains and it's already still soaked, and so like the field's just destroyed for ever.
They didn't do turf field out there?
They were trying to originally for us, and then like we had to move the location of where our field was built because our field got built my 6th or 7th grade year, and after that it was supposed to be put like back behind our high school and like in the woods, and they were gonna make like a turf field and like kind of make it like a small stadium.
Yeah,
and
that would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been awesome. Yeah. And then they ended up having to put it like over behind like our elementary school and just became like a normal grass field. Super nice, but like not not ideal for up north.
Yeah, for the weather.
I see more turf fields down south than I do up north. It's kind of crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, playing on a turf field in the heat is also not fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you like see the heat waves coming off of it.
Oh yeah, a lot of summer ball games.
Yeah.
Were you always a pitcher growing up? I mean, most guys play in the field a little bit. What did you do early on?
I was more of an infielder than I was a pitcher until I probably got to my sophomore year of high school. I think around then. And because the kid I played with that's in the Reds organization, him and I would just switch off in the infield because he threw 95 off the mound by the time we were like freshmen.
That'll play.
And so if I didn't pitch, like, he would pitch, and then there was at one point that he was pitching and I was catching, and then it was a struggle to find infielders. Because our catcher at the time was like a freshman, and literally, like, kid was like all of 150 pounds and 95 to that kid just would, like, could take him off his feet if he caught it wrong. But yeah, I actually, most of my offers were like D3 offers to play 2A out of high school.
Okay.
I ended up going JUCO and just being a PO, but most of my stuff coming out was actually be a 2A. Because I think at one point I was like, off PBR, I was like the number like 7 or like 12 for like infielders in like the state.
So where'd you end up going after high school? You were junior college?
Yeah, so I went through 4 colleges in 5 years. So I went to Jackson College, which was a JUCO, like near Detroit.
Okay.
And then had a couple disagreements with the coaches, didn't love playing time. So then I left, went to a different school in the same conference on the other side, was closer to home. And we ended up being like 25th in the nation that year.
Wow.
And then we lost in our regional right before the World Series. And then I went to Robert Morris in Chicago. And then COVID happened. And we got bought out by the school behind us because they couldn't afford the property we were on. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up going to Clark in Iowa for my last 2 years.
Okay. And then, so you ended up here halfway through the season this year. Where were you before that, and what were you doing before you got into the Mavericks League?
So I played in the USPBL before I got here, which is another league in Detroit. I just have a lot of things I keep going back to Detroit. But I played there for the first like month of the season. So they had like spring training and everything beforehand, but I had missed that because of playoffs. We were in our conference tournament at the same time that like spring training was. So I was only there for like a true month. And so I went from, I think the middle of May, I think I got there like May 14th, and I left, or was released, I think almost like to a month on the dot. The same time that Baird got released, actually. We got released on the same day. Yeah, we both came from there. It was a really weird experience. I loved it, like the stadium and everything's great out there, but like the actual overall like baseball like experience, like your training and day-to-day stuff, completely different from out here.
Really?
Oh yeah.
What were some of the biggest differences?
Well, so like you guys know it kind of with like this league is like nobody has like a true pitching coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had a pitching director, which was like one guy that managed all 4 teams.
Oh.
So like he would tell you how many innings you were throwing, like he was in like charge of like the Twins and the Diamondbacks were there for like every game for like the first 2 weeks, and whoever they wanted to see throw after like the first 2 opening nights, it was like they threw on the Twins and the Diamondbacks schedule. It wasn't like
interesting.
It wasn't like, hey, you got like this rotation. Like there was one dude that threw like 3 innings the first day, or like against us the opening night, and then threw like 3 or 4 again on Sunday because they wanted to see his like turnaround time if he came out of the pen and did like long relief.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
And then ended up signing with the Twins like 2 days later.
There you go.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah. Guess he did well on short rest.
Yeah.
It was insane because like you go there and you go to indie ball thinking like, oh, it's tough to get picked up, and then like 2 days into me being in this league, like a guy signs, I'm like, oh, this should be quick.
Yeah.
So you came here partway through the season. What was it like? I mean, joining a Clubhouse partway through, and who were the first kind of guys that you got to know really well in the Mavericks?
So I actually got out here because of Chase.
Okay.
I played with him in a summer league last year during college, and like the minute I got released, I was like, well, I don't know where to go from here. Yeah. And I called Chase because I knew he was playing out here, and like sent me like a text, and he was like, hey, send me like a video. I don't know like what our coach is going to do, because it was also the same time that Abbott was signing with the Pioneer. And so it was like really bizarre circumstances. And then Scott calls me at 1 a.m. at like Michigan time, and because it's only like 11 out here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello, like it's like a number from like Washington that I have no idea. Like I've never even heard of Vancouver, Washington at the time. And I'm like, hello. He's like, hey, you want to come play? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
And so like 2 weeks later, I ended up coming out here, and then outside of that, Evan and Hayden are both like 2 of the people I got to know first, and that I've hung out with pretty much like any time that we have time out here.
Yeah. It's crazy. It was you guys, were the Mavs already in first by the time you got here?
It was either first or it was like tied for. Because I came out here with that series with the Volcanoes. I think was like the deciding series, and we swept them that weekend.
That's right.
Because I missed the first night, and then I played the next two.
Yeah.
And then 4th of July was the next weekend.
Oh, so you have been here for a little bit. I guess it feels like it's
I've been
only
here for 2 months.
Okay.
What's the date? I've been here for 2 months as of today.
That's crazy. Wow. It seemed like it was so much less than that. I don't know. So we're pretty big fans of your pitch mix, especially the slider.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I know Lukas loves this. Where did you learn that pitch, and like how did you develop it? Was it always super good? At one point did you really start trusting it and throwing it well?
So I learned it in like a really weird way. So I didn't throw super hard off the mound like growing up at all. I did. Well, I shouldn't say the whole time. My freshman year, I was like up there for like Vila. I was like low 80s like my freshman year of high school, and then I kind of just plateaued through like pretty much until my senior year. My dad was like, "Why don't you try throwing sidearm?" And so I just like was messing around with sidearm for like the longest time. And I figured out how to throw my slider, like sidearm. Like the way my pitching coach had explained it to me was like the way that I gripped it was trying to like like a magic trick where you yank like a napkin out from under a glass. Mm-hmm. He's like trying to do that with the bottom of the baseball. And all of a sudden I had like this pitch from here, and I was like, well, I got to college and they were like, we don't want you to throw sidearm, like just be over the top, because I'd finally hit like 87 like my freshman year of college. Mm-hmm. And so they had me like throwing it. I was like, I just like trying to throw curveballs because that was what I knew over the top. Like since I was a kid, is like what do you learn as a kid? Like fastball, changeup, and like curveball.
Yeah. Right.
Could not throw a curveball that was not like the loopiest thing like on the planet that like popped out of my hand like out right away. And so I was like, I'm gonna try to throw the slider again. And all of a sudden my coach's like eyes like lit up like a Christmas tree. Yeah. He was like, you can only throw that. And so I left, and then throughout college, it just became like more and more of a thing. Like my sophomore year, I was like sitting like 86, 87, like topping like 88, 89. And my coach was like, you're not going to always be like the biggest like strikeout pitcher. Like you're not like averaging like 11 to like 13 Ks a game in like JUCO. So he's like trying to be an outs guy. And I could just get everybody to beat on my slider. Yeah. And then somewhere like between like when COVID happened and going back to school, it became like a huge swing and miss pitch. Yeah. Like my first year at Clark, I started, and it was definitely like my strikeout, like out pitch. And it got to the point like 2-0, 3-0, you were getting nothing but sliders. Like if I fell behind, there wasn't even a chance you were seeing a fastball. And then this last year, I was like late relief, like closing. And I think if you totaled it up, I maybe threw 5% fastballs this entire like regular season. Like my pitching coach would like call, and it was just because nobody was hitting it. Like I threw a 6-inning like relief appearance that went into extras, and I can remember vividly only throwing 8 fastballs that entire time.
That's crazy. Well, it's such a good pitch. I mean, right. Lukas says it all the time. We're big fans of like throwing your best pitch as much as you can. Yeah. And we saw it a lot. I think in your last 2 outings, you've been throwing it a lot and getting a lot of whiffs on it. And I was tracking the strikeouts too, like you mentioned in this last one. Yeah. And I noticed that too, that it was like 7 strikeouts through 4 or something like that. And I was like, oh, he's got a good pace here. And then
I was like, and it was such like a contradictory outing too, because right, like I have 7 Ks through 4, but I turn around and I've got like 9 hits. Yeah. And I'm like just getting singled to death. Yeah. And I'm like, well, like I'm mad, but I'm also like, how am I supposed to be mad at how I'm pitching at the time? Like, I didn't give up a walk until like my 6th inning either. Like
it was solid.
So what would you say, I mean, in terms of pitchers that you watch in the MLB, do you watch any and like try to model your game after or study what they throw?
So it's funny, like we were talking about, I think right before this, like the Mariners ERA. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like Festa that comes out of relief for them, and Brash are like 2 of the biggest like slider guys that I've like watched lately.
Lukas loves Brash.
Dude, those are great answers. Those are great answers.
Well, Brash is just like another like freak of nature, right? Yeah. Because like he's my size, but he's 15 pounds lighter than I am.
And he hits like 101.
Yeah, like he like I was listening to the Pitching Ninja podcast the other day just because I was like, I want to like look at grips or something. Yeah. And first of all, that man's fingers are insane. Like his like if I were to do this, Like there's this big of a gap between his middle and his index finger when
It's
they like come
insane.
together. It's the most bizarre thing. But those two are probably like, out of guys that are like my size, like that are like comparable-ish, those are probably the two guys I look at. Otherwise, I'm trying to think of who I like. Luis Castillo is another one. I'm just naming Mariners guys at this point. I realized this.
You're just an M's fan.
But like, it's just funny because like you can go like Gosselin off like the Dodgers. That like I try to like mirror my changeup to like off of his splitter. Like really different guys like that. I like people that have like absurd off speed that like should not fit their arm pattern whatsoever.
So do you like watch Pitching Ninja interviews and see how they grip? Because those are helpful because the MLB guys will show their grips and stuff and why. So that would help young pitchers like yourself. Do you do that?
Yeah, I spend way more time than I would like to admit on YouTube. Like just a ridiculous amount.
Join the club.
Well, I do it even with I do it with Hayden. Like we were talking about like catching one day, and like the Giants have like the whole like training like a pro like thing, and it's got like the whole series with like the catchers and like the keyhole nets, and like we sat there and like even before the game the other day he was like, you want to just like do some receiving stuff with me? And I was like, I have no problem doing it whatsoever. Like I love digging through stuff like that because it's the only way it's the way I approach college and everything else, right? Like everything's out there just to learn. Like Pitching Ninja is like the greatest thing ever. Also because it's hilarious, but
it's just genuinely really good baseball content. And I appreciate it.
Like there's just a billion. Like there's not a lot of ways that people can teach you to get the exact same thing. But if you can toy with it, like I don't have Brash's like hands to like be able to manipulate like slider or curveball that way, but it gives you an idea of, hey, how can you play around with like shapes of stuff? Like it's like how I figured out looking. Like I broke down my stats with Lukas one day. I was like looking at like the damage percentage on my slider, and then I was also thinking about like last summer I had like a really good summer. Like I won like pitcher of the year in like the Great Lakes, and I was like looking at like the videos of the way my slider was breaking and how it was like a little bit more vertical. And it's funny because I started throwing that, and it's got like a more like gyro like curveball movement. But then my actual curveball has more of like a sweep of like a true vertical slider. Like it's the most bizarre.
Interesting.
Because like some of those like when like the first one that I threw that was like that was against Carson. I struck him out like that curveball that was like low and in, and it had more of like true like curveball depth, but it had more slider like horizontal. It was really weird, and all of a sudden I started like figuring out pitches just in mid game the other day. I was like,
love it.
I was like, I saw this and like I literally have. It's the only thing I have like a memory for anymore is like how people's hands were like in those videos or pictures that I've seen. And I was like, well, I saw this one. Like, I started throwing like my sliders off of like a tread video. That it's like almost off of like a 2-seam grip and just trying to like rip it. And all of a sudden, I felt like I found my slider again because that was the hardest part of getting out here. Was like after you get released and you're not like at your best necessarily, and like you're bouncing back. Because I was like, I just don't like. I think I said it to both of you guys actually, and to Hayden. I was like, I just don't feel like myself out there. And all of a sudden, it was like I started finding my slider again and throwing it more and more, and it felt like college and everything else. And I was like, okay, now I know where I'm at.
Yeah. No, it's been looking really good. It's been fun to watch. I mean, every time we see you on the lineup card, we're excited. We didn't know we were going to get you on Saturday. I thought you were going to be Sunday because that was kind of where you had been, the Sunday starter for a little bit. But I liked the switch up, and it was a really good game.
You might get more of them this weekend.
Last weekend of the regular season, we'll see.
I might be able to leak some information outside the podcast. Who knows?
But so I guess like you were saying, you're starting to feel more like yourself on the mound and everything. We've had at this point quite a few guests on the podcast. A lot of hitters. You're only the second pitcher on the podcast, and a lot of them talk about the toughest pitcher to face is you. What do you think? The reason to that is it your off speed? Is it your velocity? Why do you think that's the most common answer that we get?
I think it's maybe a mix. I think it's like goes back to like pitchability and like how you guys say like throwing your best pitch as often as you can. Is I think like I'm not afraid to like challenge guys. Like yes, I will try to pick corners and do whatever, but I'm also not afraid to throw any pitch at any count. I think there's just like you get to a certain level, especially like. I think something everybody like has trouble understanding, and even I'll still go backwards mentally with it, is like you've gotten yourself this far. You deserve to be where you're at. So like why not really challenge with what you know you can do? It's like hitters like take somebody that like Emerson, like is a huge like base hit threat. Like just when he's hot, it's like hard line drives through both sides of the infield. Yeah. It's like if he started swinging only to try to put a ball on I-5, like he's just not going to be himself. And that's where like I had like a weird lull, and like you were even saying it to me is like it felt like I didn't have my best stuff, but I was still competing at a high level.
Yeah,
is like okay, now I'm finding like that I remember like where I'm at my best, and I can go from there. And I think it's really just a mix of like having the confidence to challenge guys and also having the experience over time. Like I've played a lot of different roles and I've been on a lot of different teams to where everything's like at a competitive level here, especially with the hitters. Like Volcanoes when like Juan Carlos and everybody were here. It's like I'm facing ex-affiliate guys like 1 through 5 at least.
Literally.
And so if you're not at your best or at least mentally thinking you're at your best, then you've already lost.
Yeah. Well, that was like, I think when we talked about it, like, you know, we kind of, I think it was only like 2 or 3 starts, maybe 4 when you first got here and you were dominating, right? Mm-hmm. And then there was kind of these couple starts in between where you weren't even pitching bad. And that's what I told you. It's like, you look up and it's like Carsie's let up 3 runs. You're like, oh, that's like not like him, you know? But like, you're still pitching well. It's just like, that's where I was kind of like, yeah. And you had mentioned you didn't quite feel like yourself yet. But it's so funny when like, just thinking about that, it was like, oh man, like Carsie's kind of getting touched up, and then you look and it's like, well, he's only let up 3 through 5. Like it's not that bad, you know.
Right, but it's also like
game.
I'm the worst about it, and Hayden can attest to it because he has to get an earful from me all the time because I get pissed off. I'm like, I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah, you're fine.
But like, I get mad because like I know I could get through most of my games like letting up 0. Mm-hmm. Like even against like the Senators the other day, like I'm like 1 smart pitch in each like at bat, and me looking at it like as soon as I throw it, I'm like I know better.
Yeah,
like I'll get the sign sometimes, and it's like an ego challenge. But I'm like in reality, I called my dad after that start, and I was just like, every time somebody got up and got a hit outside of Willie, Barcena literally just had me mind blown. I threw him 3 pitches out of the zone, and he got 3 hits. I was like, okay,
he had a day.
Yeah,
against you. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that I was like, as soon as I like try to do stuff, I'm like, I know better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I think going back to like the original question, like Holiday told me it's like he doesn't see the ball until like extremely late out of my hand.
He's not the only person I've heard say that from different teams and different hitters. Yeah.
Like I used to be really good at it because I had like a stabby arm action, so my hand would like stay behind my leg until like the last possible second. Like people just wouldn't know where like my arm was. But now, like, I've got more of, like, a fluid arm swing. So when he said that to me, like, 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So, hitters have paid their respects to you. Now it's time to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Who would you say is the toughest out hitters you do not like facing in the Mavericks League?
Oh, God, that's a list at this point. Like, I really...
you can do a top 3.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I can do top 3. Holiday, Keeper, Green.
Okay, and 2 on the Senators.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I think that list is...
If I had to go a 4th, Tony Holton's on that, too.
Okay.
So it's really...
Okay. He's been on a tear recently.
Yeah.
Tony Holton's just...
It's either Holton or it's Rigo. One of the 2.
Yeah,
Rigo
we were talking
is
about
solid,
Rigo
too.
before this.
Yeah.
Everything he's hitting is so hard.
I hit... Every time he has faced me, I've struck him out in his first appearance, and then he is absolutely just hits those singles afterwards.
That was all he needed. He needed that 1 AB. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Like, I accidentally threw a changeup up at his shoulders the last time we played him, and he swung, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then he just turned around and punished me with 2 sliders that he hit 95 back up the middle, and I was like,
everything he touches is over 95.
I looked at the tweet that you put out the other day. It was 107.6, and I was out to dinner with a couple people, and I was like, what is this kid eating? Because I need to get on it for Velo's sake. Yeah. I'm trying to throw 100, dude. Yeah,
no kidding. So, I mean, a little bit more of the fun side. Pre-game music. Teams love to run the pregame aux. Who's running the aux in the Mavericks clubhouse?
It's either Ray or Chase right now.
Okay.
Both of those.
What do they play?
Well, Ray is all music that I can't understand most of the time. That's... I don't know if you guys could hear it from the box, but we actually had a speaker down in the dugout this last weekend.
Really?
Yes, we were literally blasting music for the whole time.
That's so funny.
Guys had their own walk-up song that was just coming out of the dugout. It was, still couldn't understand any of that either. Yeah. But then Chase will mostly play rap.
Okay.
I think that's the majority. Everything that we play is rap. It's just about what language it's
now, who's the one player who's not allowed to touch the aux? They lost their aux privileges, if anybody.
I don't know if anybody's necessarily had it that I would disagree with yet, but if there's two people that haven't had it that I would choose, it's either going to be Trump or it's going to be Vin. I don't know why. I definitely just don't. I played Post Malone the other day, and Trump goes, "This is an era of my life I'd like to not go back to." And I was like, how do you say that about Post?
Yeah, right? I really thought that Hayden would have been in on that. I don't know if
I can get behind a little bit of country, and he also listens to like a small bit of rap.
Okay.
Like he'll listen to like DaBaby and a couple other things.
Okay.
I've spent enough time in a car with him that I'm okay with it. I don't know. There's something about looking at Trump that I just feel like I wouldn't trust Trump's like music choice. I feel like I'd hear some like Swedish music or something.
Okay. Well, with that being said, what's your go-to karaoke song?
When I had to do my initiation in college, I did Mr. Brightside by the Killers.
Nice. Original.
Yeah.
little indie band, you know?
Never heard
little indie band.
Most people haven't heard of them. But.
All right, so yeah, going back to the baseball side a little bit, who would you say is the best MLB pitcher of all time?
That's a heater of a question.
It is, because, everybody's got their own little flavor and different opinions on it.
I don't know. Are we going just like... That's tough.
Also, like, who do you think's the best, you know?
Or your favorite, too.
Well, like, I could go Brass because he's, like, a freak of nature. Like, like, predictably in, like, the next 5 years, that's, like, going to be an animal. Actually, I'm going to go... If I'm going current, I'm going to go Manila.
Okay.
Ooh.
Really nasty slider.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yes. I live for a dirty slider.
So... I guess it's Lucas's favorite question now. If we've gone favorite all-time MLB pitcher, what would be a moment if you had a time machine you could go back in time, watch any MLB event live? What would it be?
See, I didn't grow up like a huge like baseball buff. Like, did not get into like the history of baseball and like a lot of those things. Like, I was all over the place as a kid. I played like soccer a ton growing up. But if I'm going to go, like, anything, like, recently is, like, Musgrove throwing the first Padres no-hitter.
Ooh, that was a good game.
Yeah, like, the, like, photos and everything from that moment, and especially like, with as new as the Padres Stadium is, like, as lively as that team has been.
Yep.
Like, that was, like, one of those games that it was, like, peak, like, kind of, like, Padres moments.
Yeah.
That I was, like... But also, I could go back to, was it Gaines, or what's his name that came back here for that pitch for the Dodgers?
Gagne.
Yeah. Him versus the Barry Bonds AB.
That AB is nuts.
Oracle.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
But like if I'm going like present, like past, I think those are two like insane ones that you
there's
have to see.
There's a story behind that at bat I was talking to somebody about. I guess at the All-Star game that year, Bonds and Gagne came to an agreement that he was allowed to throw Bonds one off-speed pitch in that whole at bat. Mm-hmm. And if you watch it, he wastes it like and in like a 1-0 count or the 0-1 count, it's like the second pitch of the AB he throws in the off speed, and then after that it's all heaters, and that's why Bonds is early on like 102. He yanks it foul down the right field line.
You know what? You were telling me about this. Yeah. That's how I even actually know about this AB.
Yeah, it's
crazy because I like had knew kind of like of who Gagne was, and then you showed me that AB. It was like my second week in the press box. Yeah. Where, like coming like up to the press box.
I don't know how you're early on 102, but Barry Bonds destroyed it. Yeah, exactly.
So if you could add a pitch to your arsenal from a current MLB player, what would it be and why? So there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, that's a
pitch that you don't throw that you would add.
Yeah.
So you can't take like Brash's slider, but you could take Manoah's sinker or something.
I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go back to go Gonsolin and the Splitty.
Okay. I was gonna say Ohtani's splitter would be
good.
But
that's another one
works
too. I think like a good Splitty, like on top of like the way my changeup already moves, I would love to have that combo.
For sure.
Let's say last week here of the season, not including the playoffs.
Yeah.
You get an AB for some reason. How's that going down? You getting a knock?
What are you looking for?
Yeah.
What's the
I think I'm going backside ground ball. If I'm being realistic here. Unless there is a position player that is not Disla on the mound.
Okay.
I might have a chance
apparently.
of trying to. Okay, that one too. I kind of forgot about that. Freak of nature, just throwing. Yeah, I think I either go backside ground ball unless I get like what AT did and like kind of like lob it. I think I could sit back long enough to might be able to crank one.
Have you ever thrown a perfect game or a no hitter at any level?
I had a no hitter in high school.
Did you?
And then I got close like 3 or 4 other times. Like our district. My least favorite one is our districts for high school. We get into like the 7th inning, and I've got I struck out the first dude, and I have like a no-hitter going at this point. I actually think I had a perfect game going. And I threw like a slider like inside at this kid's like to try to buckle him, and he stuck his knee out. And it's high school so they aren't catching anything. Yeah. And he literally like drops his bat and looks at me and smiles as he's like going by, and I was like,
there it goes. Yeah.
I think I was close like 3 or 4 other times. I know there was a newspaper article that I think my parents had like inside of a scrapbook that my senior year I had like 48 scoreless innings.
Oh, that's on the fridge. That's not in the scrapbook. That's on the fridge.
There's actually surprising not in the scrapbook when you play in like a small school thing.
It's good.
Like,
that's awesome though.
I mean, what would you say your best single game performance is if you had to name one? At any level.
I also want to know worst single game performance.
Yeah, like one blow up out.
Yeah, where you just got shelled.
Okay,
so both.
We'll go worst.
Question.
We'll go worst first. I think my first game, like in my second JUCO, I think I gave up like 3 or 4 bombs. Like no, actually, there's one that tops that. My like second to last start, my first year at Clark, I go, and it's like walk, bomb, double, bomb, and then I think I like K up like another dude, and I think like I'm about to get myself out of it, and like a ground ball that like goes to my third baseman, he fields it, goes foul. The next pitch is like just an absolute noob.
Oh man!
I gave up like 3 bombs like that game. One of them like bangs off our scoreboard and right, which was like the deepest part of our like to corners, and it was
that'll
like,
humble you. Yeah, bring you back down to earth a little bit.
That.
Yeah, you need it every once in a while.
You should thank them for doing that.
Really. It was weird. So I've had like until I got to pro ball, every time that I'd switched schools or like switched into a different like league. So like you go, in my first JUCO, I was like had like kind of I gave up like a couple doubles like my first appearance. Second school, I go and I give up like 2 bombs like my first outing, and then like. It was just like this trend of like every time I got somewhere, the first outing was horrible, and I was like, almost had like imposter syndrome like every time, and then I would settle in, and then I would have like close to like almost record years at one point, and then it would just kind of like keel out, because some of that pace is like always like you go through the ebbs and flows, right? It's like the Senators, like when I got here, they were like bottom of the leaderboard, they could not win a game, and now they're on a tear.
Well, it's baseball's so mental too, like you were talking about the imposter syndrome, like. I mean, there's teams now, you're seeing it so much more predominant where they've got like a team psychologist and people going through. Who's one of the old Giants players?
Drew Robb.
Yeah, and there's a couple actually. They've like released stuff on, that same kind of thing, that imposter syndrome of like, do I really deserve to be here? Like, am I good enough? Like,
I had a buddy that was, I forget what organization I think it might have been the Tigers. He played at Michigan, and I had like trained with this kid growing up. Was like the sweetest kid I had ever met, and was an absolute dog on the mound. He's like a 6'8", like I think he was right-handed, but he would like top out like 98, which like at the time, like this is when I was like he got drafted when I was like a sophomore in high school. So this like 98 was like up there at the time.
Yeah.
And
still is.
Oh yeah. But like now it's like every day. Like most like you look at starters now and it's completely like inverse. Like starters are like throwing 98 and like relievers are coming in throwing 93, where it used to be the inverse.
Yeah.
And my dad like called me one day and he's like, he got released, and I'm like, for what? The kid's like the number 5 prospect in the organization. And he was having anxiety attacks like on the mound. Like where he like couldn't breathe, and like his last like 2 or 3 outings, like he'd been like taken out. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's ever had an anxiety attack. I have. It's like you realistically like in that moment think you're like gonna die.
Oh yeah,
it's the craziest feeling, dude. Like your chest gets tight. Like you'll start getting tunnel vision. Like if that's going on the mound, I can only imagine. Like, having to go through that in a sporting event. Like at home is one thing. It still sucks, but being out there on the mound. Imagine, but you got to take care of the mental health. It's a big deal, and it's cool to see a lot of MLB teams and other sports teams kind of take that route and have team psychiatrists that guys can go to.
It was funny that you brought that up though, because I remember how big of a Giants fan you are. Yeah, it shows on the hat. Is my roommate in college is really close friends with Drew Robb.
Oh, okay,
and so that's why that was like the first thing that popped into my mind. Is I was like. Because we had like a bunch of the like Endless Stigma shirts in our house at one point, because they just set like a bunch over.
Yeah, dude, that's sick. All right, moving along, kind of getting towards the end of the Q&A here. If you could play any other position professionally, what would it be? Catcher, interesting. That's what Danny Alvarado said. Same thing.
Yeah, no, I always wanted to be a catcher growing up. There's just something about one, the swag to the gear.
Yeah.
But also the ability to when you are truly a craftsman at framing pitches and whatnot, and then you can also hose dudes out and hit nukes. You're a part of everything.
Yeah, true. It's a big part of the game.
It's my job, but better.
Yeah, right.
So I guess moving up, looking forward into the next series, the final series of the regular season. It's going to be the Salem Senators taking on the Campesinos. Who do you got in that series? Yeah. Senators coming in 11-game win streak.
Yeah.
You think the Camps are going to take one from them?
I could see it being Game 3 maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Last game of the regular season, to go out with a bang and just stir things up. I would love to see the chain break and see what happens in playoffs, to end the hot streak and then go. But I would still take Senators in the series overall.
Well, if Camps miraculously sweep, which I think they could, they're not
it's Mavericks League, man.
Yeah, dude. In the Volcano series, they played well, besides one game. But
I mean, everybody's playing good baseball right now. That's the toughest part.
Yeah,
right. I just watched Jesse turn into an animal on the mound the other night.
Who was it? Chase Bassard said he was in the box, and he's I look out there, and Jesse's talking to himself. Yep. He was dude, I do not want to be
he has Liam Hendricks energy to me.
Yeah.
When he came off fired up that one inning, the fist bump and everything gave me Liam
slamming
Hendricks.
His glove.
Yeah, I turned around to some people, I'm yo, what did you guys do?
He's on
who made him mad?
Yeah, while we're on the topic of that, who's your favorite pitchers to watch in the Mavericks League that aren't on your team? So I was wondering.
Jesse's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Bell impresses me continuously, and it was funny because we were talking about spin rates the other day.
Yeah.
And, his wasn't as up there as I thought for how much his slider moves.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there, and I'm you just get more impressive as just.
He has a really darty slider.
Yeah.
It just it looks like a fastball for so long.
It's it's almost like cutter until it fully breaks off.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably go Jesse, Bell. I'm trying to think, and then Wilmon.
Yeah.
I gotta give a shout out to Wilmon because that's just impressive.
The Will dog. Love watching Andrew.
Yeah.
It's the most calm 92.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. It looks effortless.
Yeah. There's me who's at an even keel, but I'm not throwing the lights out of it necessarily right now. Maybe this week, but then you watch Jesse who's full intent on everything.
Yeah.
And then there's just Wilmon that's doesn't even look like he's using most of his body to go. It literally looks just and it just comes out. I'm oh.
Mavericks are taking on the Volcanoes. Massive series. They got you guys by a half game, I believe. They're in second, you're in third. What are the keys to that? Who do you see winning? I mean, obviously, I think you're going to take your team.
I would like to take ourselves in that.
But how do you think that plays out? Is it a sweep? Is it a split series? And what are some keys to that?
I would love a sweep.
Yeah.
I think we could really use a sweep right now for the morale.
Couldn't we all?
Y'all don't know how much I need.
Yeah, no, I think a sweep would be great. But it's also like you guys said, Volcanoes are playing very tough baseball right now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big series into not only how many games you play going into this weekend, but what exactly does playoffs hold for everybody? Because I think this is the best series to determine what you're kind of going to see from people going in.
That's true. This might be a very
because you're going to see what 3 and 4 really look like and who's tough. Yeah. Because if you would have asked me when I came in, I would have said it's us versus the Volcanoes, maybe the Campesinos. If somebody beats somebody in a game.
The Senators weren't even on the radar when you came in.
No, because when I got here, it was they had Moser, Keeper got here 2 weeks after I did or something like that.
No, Keeper's been here the whole time.
Maybe I don't know.
He really started heating up within the last month.
Yeah, I think it was it was right after, because I didn't really remember Keeper all that well until all of a sudden balls were just flying back past me and I just was getting punked.
All of a sudden he's 5 for 6, 4 for 5 on the day. Yeah,
I literally you guys see it on the stream. I'll joke around with some of them, whatever. Poyo was just looking at me because I would just throw him nothing but sliders at one point. He's yo.
I remember that at that. I mentioned it. I was dude, I don't think he saw a fastball that whole AB.
No, that was Disley did that too.
Oh, it was Disley.
He got 3 straight sliders. But Puyo and Keeper both times because I finally got them out like in a row. And both of them ran by me, and I was just like, can you guys give me a break today? I'm like, it's hot. Like, I'm tired. Like,
it's swing and miss, please.
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, so what are your personal goals for the rest of the season?
personal goal, win the championship first
Yeah.
and foremost. I think that's everybody's here goal. I think personal is really trying to see how high I can get my velo within like the next 2 games while also still being efficient. I don't want to take away from what I'm doing.
I mean, what are your velo goals?
I mean, to pop like a 3 or 4 again would be cool. I did it like in college at certain points, so that'd be cool to see again.
Did you catch that? He said the next 2 games, implying a championship run here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I like it.
yeah. Oh, I'm making sure it happens. I'm gonna make this
Manifesting,
interesting.
yeah.
I'm gonna make this interesting for sure. But yeah, it won't be the last time that you see me next week.
Love that.
But yeah, I think really it's just about how high can I do it and to what efficiency. I don't need to throw
Right.
94 and peg somebody with it.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
throw 94 and see somebody just absolutely turn themselves around.
Just
Like,
like dot. It's like
Yeah.
corner.
So, like, moving into the off season, I'm assuming you're going to want to work on your velo. What are some things you're going to do in the off season to try to get that velo up, and what number do you want to like sit at?
Where do you train and stuff too?
yeah.
That was what we were interested in. That.
Yeah, so might be going up to Driveline. There's a couple of different places I'm kind of deciding between right now. But big thing is really just trying to get to a point that I can get back to sitting like low 9s and being able to get up to mid. I think with the way my stuff plays, obviously like I could be like 100 miles an hour or die.
Yeah.
But like stepping stones at a time is like really getting back to low 90s and knowing that my stuff plays really well.
Mm-hmm.
The spin jumps up a little bit more. I get up to like 26, 2800 on like my slider, and then can really just sit around and with no sticky. And really just find like where my stuff plays at its best and not try to do too much. Big thing for me is really just getting up, like I'm at like 190 pounds right now, is really getting to like that 205, 210 goal.
Yeah.
And just seeing how strong and how well I can move at that size, and then making the adjustments from there. Because this is my first pro off season where I actually have like college, I don't have the anxiety of, class, like lifts, like all that. It's on my own time now, and it can really like focus on nothing but baseball.
Yeah. And what you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's not the additional, like I have a 6 a.m. lift,
Yeah.
and then I have like class for the next 6 hours, and then I have to go practice, and then I have to
Homework.
try to do homework,
Yeah.
sleep, and be
Eat
recovered
well.
to do again
Yeah,
for the next
exactly.
day. Like
Yeah. Well, it's a big process. Student athletes have it very hard.
It's crazy.
it's crazy. Like once you get out of like college,
Yeah.
like that it hits you that like I just saw like an immediate jump. Like as soon as like regardless of being released, like the way I was playing and like how I felt throughout the day, like improved by like tenfold by the time I graduated.
Yeah. That's crazy. Well, it's been fun to watch you this season. Lucas, you got anything else you want to add on?
Yeah, one more
there
question.
it
Who's
is.
got the
Oh,
best?
here we go.
Who's got the best uniforms in the Mavericks League?
Oh, that's a great question.
I love asking this question.
You can be biased. You can say the
I
Mavs.
could be biased only because ours like have the most flair. I think.
Yeah.
Like I think ours like tradition like on a traditional like jersey sense. I love ours because they're unique.
Yeah.
If
And
I'm going
original.
like clean though, I think the Volcanoes might have it.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm rocking Senators.
Yeah. Send
I
it
think
all the way.
Senators. Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about the white and gray I like.
Yeah.
Nice.
I
Okay.
feel that. And those are also original, like
Yeah.
97, I believe, too. So
Yeah.
you guys have
Facts
original. Yeah, you have original.
Oh yeah, I have
Mavericks
cigarette
jerseys.
burns in my
Yeah.
pants. Like,
Hey, never a bad time in the dugout, you know. Back in the
Hey, man.
'70s, yeah.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, hold it while I'm on base. Thank you.
it was like I thought Chase was joking when I like it was like we were coming back from the airport when he picked me up when I got out here. I thought he was kidding. He was like, "No, like the uniforms are like the originals."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Thinking that it's going to be from like 2000, something
Yeah.
like that, not 1960.
No, they're real thick. No belt loops. You got a drawstring. Yeah, it's original.
That was honestly the biggest thing to get used to is like that my pants can come undone
Yeah.
while I'm pitching.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine having those in the MLB where it's like
Right.
they're checking for stuff. Like they usually go to the belt. It's like, well, I don't know.
That's,
No,
Maybe to untie the the drawstring. I don't know.
that'd be, that's actually really interesting to think about.
You got anything for us?
No, I'm just happy to be here, man. I'm grateful for the opportunity and get to know everybody.
Yeah, man. It's been fun watching you, and like we said, we're always excited when we see you on the lineup card. And excited to see what the Mavericks will do in this final weekend. Big series against Volcanoes. Yeah.
As we wrap up the regular season.
Yeah.
Feels like it blinked and it's just
it's gone.
Yep.
Like I got here in June and it's just like
Yeah. Yep. Well, that concludes episode 7. We have a special episode 8, folks. It's going to be a good one. You're going to want to tune into that.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. We're actually going to keep this one a secret. It's going to be pretty fun. You definitely want to check those out. For episode 7, though, this was Carsie Walker, pitcher on the Mavericks. I'm Zach Priest.
I'm Lukas Anderson.
And we appreciate you coming on, Carsie, and we'll see you guys all next week.